So, recently I was seriously considering enlisting in the Marine Corps. I have some family in the military, and I thought this would be a good path for me. What I wanted to do was to be a Mustang. A Mustang is somebody who is an officer, which is a very high rank. To be an officer, you need a perfect score on physical training, you need to go through very tough written evaluations, and you need a bachelor's degree. So a Mustang is someone who enlists, and while they're enlisted, they get their bachelor's degree. And then they become an officer. So they're the same rank as another officer, but a Mustang is much better respected because they've been through everything. And so while enlisting, I talked to a recruiter that my buddy, I have two friends in the Marines, they both were recruited by this guy, and they kind of became friends. He followed up after, they said he was super nice. So I was like, okay, I'll go to this guy, because I was told he won't lie. And then that's why I agree with this quote that says, after dark, all black cats are leopards. Because at the end of the day, he was just a recruiter. I thought about it for a long time, but I didn't think about it enough. I spent maybe 3-4 weeks thinking about it, and that's a big life decision. It's an 8-year commitment. And I talked to my parents about it, and my dad was proud, my mom was pissed. And she said, absolutely not. Like, you will not come back to a house. We will take everything we can. Like, you will come back and no one will be supporting you. We will not be there on graduation day. And she said, if you want to be an officer, fantastic, go to school. Spend 8 years getting a bachelor's, and then decide you want to become an officer. Because I guarantee by the time you've gotten a bachelor's degree, you will not want to be an officer. By the way, this is a month ago. This is not like, years ago, like right when I graduated high school. So after that, I was like, okay, she's right. I didn't think about this enough. It's still something I want to do, enlisting, but I want to take a step back and decide if being a Mustang is the best way I can be an officer. Or would I rather be an officer by getting a bachelor's and I can focus on school? So I contacted my recruiter and I said, I'd like to take a step back. I feel like I didn't take enough time to make this decision. I just want to make sure I'm on the right path. And what we were going to do that weekend was MEPS. For those of you who don't know, MEPS is where you go to do your physical test, like your physical, and a written test so that you can get your job. So when I texted him, I said, if you no longer want to do that, I totally understand. If you'd like to wait until I'm more confident and spend that time on somebody else who knows exactly and can already commit, then that's fine. But otherwise, I'd still be happy to go as long as there's no commitment. And he promised me there is no commitment. You can show up, you can take the test, and you could leave after if you so decide. And then I said, and then after this, he said, it sounds like you have a lot of questions. How about you come meet with me today? And I said, I can't meet with you today. I'm going to work. He said, I have the commanding officer, which is an incredibly high rank, the commanding officer of the Marine Corps. He said, I have the commanding officer at my office today. You should come by. He'd be a great person to talk to. He could outline all those options for you. And I said, well, I'm going to work. It sounds like a great opportunity. It sucks that I missed it. I get to work, and guess who's waiting for me? Not just my recruiter, but my recruiter and the commanding officer of the Marine Corps are standing outside my break room. This big, huge, busting out of his uniform, 7-foot-tall guy that's been in the Marine Corps since he was 18, and now he's like 35. And he went over the programs, all the programs, but every single program he listed, he only talked about 2 other ways to get in the Marine Corps, and they were both enlisting. It was enlist and do this, or you could do it the other way. And I was like, okay. So I wasn't gonna say no, this guy's huge, and it was a bully tactic. At the end of the day, it was a bully tactic. So after I'm leaving, because I haven't even clocked in yet, I'm trying to go to work, so I shake their hands, I go to my break room, and they said that as I'm leaving, he's like, yep, so let's do Thursday for MEPS. Bear in mind, we were gonna do the weekend. He said, Thursday, Friday, we'll go to MEPS. We'll do the physical, we'll do the written test, we'll get you sworn in, we'll take pictures of your tattoos, make sure you don't have anything racist. Good to go. And I was like, swear in? And he was like, well, yeah, that's a part of MEPS. And I was like, you said there was no commitment. And he said, well, it's not committing, it's the first step of your commitment. And I was like, no, it's not. So I contacted him later that night because I needed to go to work. So I was just like, yeah, okay. Clocked in, and then I contacted him, and I was like, it's a felony to leave after that. It's dishonorable discharge to leave after you've sworn in. You are now a Marine recruit. You have to go through boot camp after that. You've already committed to going to boot camp. It's a verbal contract. You finish the test, and then they say repeat after me. And if you repeat after them, you have no choice. So I found out that he lied to me. Like, he tried to trick me into signing. And then after that, I found out that he was lying to me about the job opportunities. He was lying to me about timing. And there were just a lot of ways he was just trying to screw me over. And I realized they're all the same. He wasn't special because he got my guy signed in. He lies just like all the other recruiters. Because all dark cats are leopards at night.
All right. The personal experience is great because it gives you a lot of content to talk about, and you've got, you've always got something to say. You've got provide us with a bunch of detail. You make it an interesting story. It doesn't necessarily work very well as a speech because it is kind of a stream of consciousness thing, and it is, I guess it's chronological, but there's no pattern to it. It's not like we're building to a particular conclusion. The conclusion comes with the revelation that you have at the end. I do like the way that you tied it into the quote that you had at the beginning. There's a little ambiguity as about how that's going to happen, and then at the end there's a payoff about what's going on and why it fits with the topic. I thought that made perfect sense. As usual, like we talked about it, all the other stuff the delivery stuff is solid. It's the speech that needed work. It's not the delivery that was a problem here. So that's not too different from what we've talked about before. All right. There's something else I was going to say, but it had nothing to do with the speech. It had to do with the recruiting process.